The Mystery of Dan Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper boarded a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle. Mid-flight, he handed a note to a flight attendant, informing her that he had a bomb. Cooper demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Upon landing in Seattle, he allowed the passengers to disembark in exchange for the money and parachutes, but he retained the flight crew. Cooper then instructed the pilots to take off again, this time toward Mexico City. Not long after the plane was airborne, he donned a parachute, opened the rear door, and jumped into the night sky somewhere over southwestern Washington. Neither Cooper nor the bulk of the ransom money was ever seen again. Some believe he perished in the wilderness, unable to survive the elements or the jump itself. Others suggest he may have lived out the rest of his days under a new identity. In 1980, a boy found a decayed bundle of $20 bills identified as part of the ransom money along the banks of the Columbia River. Flannan Isles Lighthouse keepers. In December 1900, a ship arrived at the remote Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland to relieve the 3 men stationed as lighthouse keepers: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. However, when the ship arrived, the lighthouse was eerily silent, with no one there to greet them. Inside, the clocks had stopped and half-eaten meals were still on the table, but the 3 men had vanished. The logbook revealed cryptic entries in the days leading up to their disappearance, describing severe weather and strange behavior among the men. Official investigations concluded that the men were likely swept away by a freak wave, but the lack of bodies or any definitive evidence has fueled speculation. Some theories suggest the men were victims of a murder-suicide, while others believe supernatural forces, or even extraterrestrial beings, were involved. The Sodder Children. On Christmas Eve, 1945, a fire engulfed the home of the Sodder family in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder managed to escape along with 4 of their children, but 5 of the Sodder children were never seen again. After the fire was extinguished, no human remains were found in the ashes, leading the Sodders to believe their children had been abducted rather than perished in the flames. Strange circumstances surrounded the fire. The phone line to the house was cut. Ladder, which he intended to use to rescue the children, was inexplicably missing, and the family's cars wouldn't start when George attempted to use them for help. Decades of private investigations and public appeals yielded nothing definitive, but theories range from a mafia kidnapping to an insurance scam gone wrong. The pilot, Frederick Valentich. On October 21, 1978, Frederick Valentich, a 20-year-old Australian pilot, set off on a routine flight over the Bass Strait between the Australian mainland and Tasmania. As he flew, Valentich radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control, reporting that a large, unidentified aircraft was following him. His descriptions of the mysterious craft were strange. It had a long shape, shiny metal surface, and green lights. In his final transmission, he reported that the object was hovering above him and that his engine was stalling. Then, without warning, communication was cut off and his plane disappeared from radar. No wreckage or trace of Valentich was ever found, despite an extensive search. His disappearance has become a focal point for UFO enthusiasts, with many claiming that Valentich was abducted by extraterrestrials. The disappearance of Zebb Quinn. On the evening of January 2, 2000, 18-year-old Zebb Quinn finished his shift at a Walmart in Asheville, North Carolina, and met up with his friend Robert Jason Owens to discuss purchasing a new car. Shortly after leaving, he sent an unusual page to his mother saying he wouldn't be home that night, but the message seemed out of character. His family reported him missing the next day. 2 weeks later, Zebb's car was found abandoned in a parking lot with several bizarre items inside: a live puppy, a pair of lips drawn in lipstick on the back window, and a hotel keycard. Strangely, there were no clues linking the puppy or the keycard to anyone connected to him. Owens claimed that his friend had gotten into a minor car accident on the night he disappeared and left him shortly afterward. but inconsistencies in his story raised suspicions. In 2017, Robert Jason Owens was indicted for the murder of Zebb Quinn after being convicted of another unrelated crime. Despite this, the full circumstances of disappearance remain unclear, and his body has never been found. Musician Jimmy Sullivan. This man was an enigmatic musician with an equally mysterious end. In March 1975, Sullivan set out on a road trip from Los Angeles to Nashville, where he hoped to kickstart his music career. He checked into a hotel in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, but never spent the night there. The next day, his car was found abandoned more than 20 miles away, with all his personal belongings, guitar, clothes, wallet, still inside. He had simply disappeared. What makes his vanishing even more eerie are the lyrics of his songs, which seem to foreshadow his fate. In the title track of UFO, Sullivan sings about driving into the desert and encountering beings from another world. NBA star Bison Dele. Bison Dele, born Brian Williams, was a charismatic NBA star who played for several teams, including the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons. In 2002, he and his girlfriend, Serena Carlon, set off on a sailing trip from Tahiti aboard a yacht named Hakuna Matata, accompanied by his brother Miles DeBoard and the boat's captain. Weeks later, the yacht reappeared in a Tahitian harbor, but Dele, Carlon, and the captain were missing. DeBoard was the only one left aboard, and after docking, he fled to the US using Bison's identity to make financial transactions. Suspicion fell on DeBoard, who soon became the primary suspect in what was presumed to be a triple murder. Before authorities could question him further, he overdosed on insulin and died, taking whatever secrets he had with him to the grave. Bison Dele's body, along with Carlin's and the captain's, was never found, leaving behind a haunting mystery at sea. The Springfield Three. On the morning of June 7, 1992, the quiet neighborhood of Delmar Street in Springfield, Missouri, was rocked by the disappearance of three women. 47-year-old Cheryl Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend, 18-year-old Stacy McCall. The women were last seen at Levitt's home, where they had returned after a graduation party. When friends arrived the next day, they found all of their personal belongings, including purses, cigarettes, and cars, left behind, with no signs of a struggle. Despite national media attention and extensive searches, no solid leads have ever emerged. Theories range from an abduction by a serial killer to a human trafficking ring, but each avenue has turned up nothing. To this day, the case of the Springfield Three remains one of America's most perplexing unsolved disappearances. The vanishing of Owen Parfitt. In the summer of 1763, Owen Parfitt, an elderly and disabled man, was sitting outside his sister's cottage in Shepton Mallet, England, enjoying the afternoon air. He couldn't walk on his own and relied on his sister and neighbors for care. However, when his sister went out for a brief moment and returned, Owen had vanished from his chair. A search of the village and surrounding fields turned up no sign, and the ground showed no evidence of a struggle. Neighbors who lived nearby had seen nothing unusual, though it was said that earlier in life, he had led a wild and adventurous life, which led to speculation that his past had somehow caught up with him. Despite extensive efforts, Owen was never found, and the event remains an enduring mystery.